rest of the stories, I always pray to God to send angels to bring me food. That is the prayer of Daripoga, an old woman believed to be in her 80s every morning. She suffered leprosy at a tender age, and that has completely deformed her. She has lost all her 10 fingers and depends on only her 2 big toes left to walk. Said Kwame Boateng, who featured this woman in his latest documentary, Withered Skins, reports the old woman has also been abandoned by her children.
On a dirt compound is a thatched roofed mud house. Out of it, a frail-looking old woman emerges and walks towards a mango tree to get fresh air. Her name is Daripoga, a woman possibly in her 80s, living alone in this part of the village with her 13-year-old granddaughter. Daripoga suffered leprosy at a younger age, but at that time, she did not know what it was. She used local concoctions in the hope that she would recover, but over time, her condition worsened. She has lost all her 10 fingers, and from afar, you might think both hands have been amputated from the wrist. She remembers exactly how one after the other, she lost all her fingers.
Local medication, a black concoction she used to smear on the skin. Okay. Yeah, he used to smear on the body.
And did she know it was a medical condition or?
Say initially they sent her to war when the condition set in, and that time Upper West wasn't developed as it stands today, and she went there and they said there wasn't medicating as at that time, and she came back. She said the experience is that it will swell from the digits, and it will start chopping off from the digits, from digit to a digits, call them phalanges, one phalanges to the next phalanges to the next phalanges till it reached the palm. That was how they start falling, and that was the beginning where he cannot feed herself.
Leprosy affects the tissues, especially the cartilage, and then more importantly affects the nerves. Now when the nerves are affected, it means that there is loss of sensation. Okay? It's not loss of mobility, although there is to some degree, but largely loss of sensation because it's the peripheral nerves or the nerves that are on the surface, if I put it that way, that are affected. Which means that you do not feel pain, you don't feel sensation. For that reason, you can injure yourself and not realize it. Okay? So they end up with sores and with ulcers that eat away at the flesh. The disease in itself also technically eats away at the flesh, the cartilage, and the bone. And so over the years, you get the digits or the extremities receding. And that's where you end up with this club-like features of the fingers or the toes.
And for this old woman, it appears the disease has also affected her eyes, so she tears up unknowingly. She manages to clean those tears with her disfigured hand. Daripoga has lost 4 of her 10 children. The rest hardly visit. In fact, for over 5 years now, none has visited her. All she has now is her life and her granddaughter. She goes to bed without any idea where her next meal would come from, until good Samaritans pass by and offer them food. Daripoga says at times they sleep on empty stomach.
Okay, what basically she's saying is that it's food. If she get money, she can buy food and cook and eat. She's happy. Apart from that, what again does she need? That's what she's telling us.
All she needs is daily meals.
Daily meals. That's what she said. So.
Today.
Let's delve more into this, and Dr. John Amoesi, who is leader at Global Health at the Kumasi Center for Collaborative Research and also a lecturer at KNUST, and Dr. Angela Dramina Boaja, who is Executive Director of ACT Foundation, will join me for this discussion. Let me start with you, Dr. John Amoesi. Tell me, how prevalent is this disease in Ghana? Hello, Mr. Amoesi. You're on Joynews Prime, and if you can hear me, I'm asking, how prevalent is leprosy in Ghana? Let's try and get Dr. Amoesi to join again, but Dr. Angela Dramina Abuaje is also on. She's Executive Director of ACT Foundation. Okay, so I'm told Dr. John Amoesi is back. Doc, if you can hear me, I'm asking, how prevalent is this disease in Ghana?
Good evening, Aisha, and I hope you can hear me now.
Very well.
Excellent, excellent. No, so good evening to you again, and to the listeners all over the country and all over the world, indeed, and also to Angela, who's also on Zoom. I really would like to take the time to applaud the work that Seth has done on this disease, which falls into the category of what we call neglected tropical diseases. We call them neglected tropical diseases, and it's a bit of a misnomer because it's not really the disease that is neglected, but it's the people who suffer from these diseases who are neglected people. So it's more about neglected people. Now, why are they neglected? They're neglected because these diseases are closely associated with poverty, and so it's largely those who suffer from these diseases are very poor, and so any solutions or any medications or interventions that would be found or discovered or would be improved for these people, they largely will not be able to afford. So there's therefore very little incentive for the global research and health system as it is presently to invest in providing new treatments that can address these diseases. However, there are a bunch of already existing treatments, some of which are very effective for neglected tropical diseases. And a good example of this is leprosy. Presently in our world, there really should not be anyone suffering from leprosy. More so in a country like Ghana, which is a low middle income country, definitely way advanced than many of fellow African countries. We really should not have anybody with leprosy. And as I speak, we have approximately about 300 people suffering from leprosy in Ghana. Some experts will put that figure much higher, and I wouldn't be surprised if it really is, because as we know from our basic epidemiology and from what we know how surveillance works, if we have a number, more often than not, that number would be higher than what we have estimated. Of course, under some circumstances, you're going to have an overestimate, but this conservative estimate of 300 has been determined by enumeration. So people went around to try and count. So we can peg that figure at around 300. A lot of these cases should not exist because people get exposed to the bacteria which causes leprosy. It could take 5 years, sometimes even 20 years before it manifests as disease. And at the time it manifests, it can be treated so that there are completely no sequelae or no really negative effects of the disease. So it's a real shame that to date in our country, in Africa, and all over the world, we have so many cases of leprosy which should not exist. So it may not sound like a really large number, 300, but when you put it when you juxtapose that against the fact that we have cheap, actually freely available treatments to address this disease, and also the fact that it's really the poorest of the poor who suffer from this disease, then there's no excuse. We really should not have any people suffering from leprosy in Ghana. Unfortunately, we still do.
Let me bring in Angela Dramina, who is the Executive Director of ACT Foundation. Angela, you must be worried about the pathetic scenes we've seen in this documentary. How do we move on from here? What's your recommendation as to how we can deal with this issue?
Well, one of the things that, good evening to everybody and to Dr. Amoesi and the rest of you. I hope you can hear me clearly.
Loud and clear.
That's great. One of the things that I was actually looking forward to hearing was who are the people or the institutions around the community where this old lady lives, who could be of help to her. I mean, you look at the documentary and it's almost like, how can we be so mean if somebody like that lives in our community? And it's true that Upper West is a very, largely poor region. If you look at the dynamics, the population, the fact that they're agricultural based, and there's a lot of poverty in Upper West, you still think that, there may be some institutions and some people who may care a little more and to ensure that you live in a place at least that looks a bit more habitable, should be fed, maybe even if it's not 3 times a day, twice a day by some people. So I'm hoping, I've just seen that Seth is on, maybe he might be able to help us know who has been helping her, what kinds of institutions are around there, where's the church, for example, and how has the church been helping this old lady? So we're looking at the social issues here that directly affect her life, and I'd love to hear more about that.
Luckily, Seth Kwame Boateng, who put together the documentary, has also joined us via Zoom. Seth, what's next from here? What do we have in place for these vulnerable people?
So quickly, if I can respond to what Angela, the questions she just asked. She wakes up every day praying to God to send angels to come and feed her. I remember when I went there that day, what she was going to eat that morning or that day was even a problem. So I never knew you could match TZ, Chozafi. So she had Chozafi she ate the previous day, she had some left, and she had matched that, like, and made it like porridge, and that was what she was sipping, and she was going to sip this throughout the day. It's a very deprived area where telephones don't even work. And to get people to help is a problem, because where she even is she's at the outskirts of the town, of the Motori village where she is. Hardly would you get people even going there. When we got there, a few of the community members who saw us were even surprised, because this woman, nobody comes to her. She's alone with her granddaughter, you understand? So getting help, it's only those who work at the hospital where if she has to be, anytime she's unwell. And I said in the documentary, she has just 2 of her the 2 big toes left. All the other toes are gone. Then she walks on that to the hospital and comes back. So it's the hospital people who have been helping. And I also saw the assemblyman. She mentioned the assemblyman occasionally comes in and gives her something. When we went...
Okay, we're having a terrible connection with the internet, but I think Seth Kwame provided those answers there for Angela Dramina. I'm grateful that you all were able to join in this conversation. Seth Kwame Boateng is with Joynews. He put together that documentary, Withered Skins. Dr. John Amoisi is the leader of Global Health Group at the KCCR and also a lecturer at the Public Health School at KNUST. And Angela Dramina is Executive Director of ACT Foundation. I'm grateful for your time, ladies and gentlemen. Now